Hello, beautiful people. My name is Marie Ferguson from Awæcnian Academy, and the beautiful Felicia and I are so excited to be here with the amazing Bronwyn Bergen from Stars Kids Life Coaches, because what we're excited to share with you is our amazing summit that we're planning in November, Global Youth Uniting, a youth empowerment summit. And in this sense of uniting, coming together, we're so excited to bring the voices of our young people, parents, coaches, and the adults that are ready to listen to the voices of our future. Flea, what are you excited about this particular summit?
For me, it has always been a lifelong desire to be in a position to be able to provide a sense of belonging for those in the youth field. As an educator, I just really love empowering the youth to have their voice. They are the next generation that are here to lead us into the future. And when we can empower them and give them a presence, then that voice gets to be heard. So I'm excited to actually hear what the next generation are really aiming for our future.
I love that. And in doing that, we also have some amazing coaches, parents, facilitators that are here to listen, to share their wisdom as well for our young people and for parents, because opening that dialogue of conversation, of community is something that I know Bronwyn is also super passionate about. And we have some of her amazing coaches coming to join us. And Bronwyn, what are you looking forward to with this particular summit?
Very much like the both of you, and like Flea just mentioned, it's bringing together youth from around the world where we can talk about topics that make them feel empowered and be active listeners. And also, by actively listening to them, providing skills and strategies. And one thing that my coaches are going to really provide, and which we work with kids daily on, is confidence building, empowering them by teaching strategies on coping and resiliency, positive mindset, growth mindset, getting rid of any negative thoughts and replacing them with those positive thoughts. There are so many strategies that my coaches are just so excited to share. And that way, these kids are going to leave this summit with a toolbox of skills that they can just feel empowered. And so that they can carry on this, voices that we just described and, just feel the most confident that they possibly can be.
So powerful. And we all have a background in education. I know I've been teaching for 17 years, primarily in high school, but I also have been working with primary school and in America be elementary and those young people, and just seeing the disconnect that I, see in sometimes different institutions and systems, and perhaps things that are happening at home that are impacting their learning, their growth, their confidence, as you said, Bronwyn. And I feel having a space and a platform that we're providing here allows perhaps just other ways of bringing in new ways of learning, of being, for our parents, for our young people to open and feel confident to even talk to their parents and their families about things that are on their hearts as well. And that's something that we're really passionate about, and we're so looking forward to sharing the program with you. Now, parents, if you're listening in, or young people, if you're tapping into this as well, we have some amazing opportunities for our tweens and teens that would like to come and join the conversation. So if you've got a voice, if you've got a passion, something that you want to share and have actual amazing adults hear you in that and share these perspectives and talk about your concerns and your passions and your dreams, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Flea, in working with our teens and young people, what are some things that we're going to help them with if they're choosing to come and be a part of this experience?
Yeah, speaking hasn't always been something that's come naturally to me. I was the child that had my assessment paper up in front of my face, reading it as it shook uncontrollably, trying to get my words to stay in a verbal linguistic audible manner, as it took and completely terrorized me from the inside out. So speaking is something that is gifted through this property, being able to be held in a space where you feel safe enough to speak about what you're passionate about, but also the ability to have some of those skills, like how do we get past the nerves? How do we talk about something we're passionate and make sure that people understand? So a lot of these creative skills and talking skills, both Maria and I will be guiding through a 3-week mentorship program where you actually get to unpack who it is that you are and that little mini professional speaking course, we'll call it a course, program, support, whatever it is, just guiding you through different ways that we can help you to become a more confident speaker. And this is not just about learning, but presenting that message and getting that out there to the world. And as Bronwyn said, this is global. So from around the world, if you've got a message, if you live in a community that, you know, has beautiful ideas or ways in which we can learn and teach and grow as a community together whole, because it's not just about being an adult or a kid, it's about how we join and grow together as a human race, as humanity. So this is really beautiful to be able to offer that and also build those speaking skills, because we are a global community and we are building and networking in such ways that opportunities are available right now.
Amazing. And look, if you are from Australia, from the US, and also we've got some amazing young entrepreneurs from Africa joining us, this is a great way to connect with young people, young entrepreneurs from around the world who have a vision, have a mission, and a beautiful way to connect. So save the date, everybody. In Australia, it is the 16th to the 18th of November. And in the States, obviously, we are time jumped ahead in Australia. What are the dates, Bronwyn, for you guys over in the States?
It's November, Friday the 15th through the weekend, and ending on November 17th on Sunday.
Amazing. And folks in the US, it'll be after school. Obviously, we value education, so it'll be starting in the afternoon. And for us here in Australia, a beautiful early start, but not too early in the morning at 9 a.m. here in Australian Eastern Standard Time. So come and get involved, join the conversation. Let's create dialogue, let's create change. And we hope to see you at our Global Youth Uniting Summit. See you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, amazing. I'm so excited. I'm knocking things over. And folks, you know, we've had so much fun talking about the beautiful women, the mums here in the Mum Summit, and just sharing the excitement of what's coming next with our Global Youth Uniting Empowerment Summit that's happening in November with Bronwyn Bergen. And Bronwyn was in one of our earlier summits in April with Shika as well. And so to collaborate with amazing people around the world is so fantastic. And I'm super excited about it. How about you, Flea? Oh, I think you're muted. The joys.
You're still muted.
Still muted. Oh, no. While Flea is flicking to that, I know we're passionate about young people and children. Shika, hearing about the Youth Summit, working with mums, working with amazing people in community. What are you looking forward to after this summit, going into that one?
Yeah, I'm very excited for my son. First of all, I'm preparing him if he can come and join in because he loves public speaking, and I think this is a great place for him to learn and understand. And he's been watching me for last 2 years, and all the mums who came to India, he knows they're real people on the other side. So I'm very excited for that for sure, and I will look into joining. I don't know how I can because I've been also working with mums and little children and my whole work around photography and bringing that to kids so that they can start having the art of noticing that I want to do with children and bring that to them. So I'm very excited about it for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to get there for a change, talking to younger people.
I love that. And Flea, can we hear your beautiful voice?
I hope so. I'm like, I'll just change sides. That's what we have to do. So just for those aware, the lovely little cheap adapters that you can buy for Apple and Mac, they're not very good. They don't consistently stay connected. So just for the record, if you're trying to budget out, don't. They don't work. This is I think the third day using it, and it's cut out on me a few times now already. So let's just go with, we'll have to use the ones that are set in the actual computer. But I was saying before, I'm just really excited to give kids a voice because, like I said in my keynote, they've been my inspiration. When I was going through some of my hardest times, it was actually the kids that had the best advice, and it was just through their innocence and their curiosity and just their ways of being that showed me it's like, no, actually there are better ways to love, there are better ways to teach, there are better ways to experience this life together where they can all grow. And they were the inspiration behind, maybe there is another way to start a school, maybe there is another way to shift up the education system, and if it can't be through an actual viable school, perhaps it's just by giving them a platform where we can hear their voice, hear what they would like to do for their future. And we need to remember that, like, a lot of the time when we're teaching for our future. But we have to remember that by the time these kids graduate and they end up in their careers and after uni and all of that, most of us are out of the work environment. So why are we teaching them to join us where we are now when we should be teaching them to go where they're headed? The next destination, or what else can we be? If this is what we've got now, how can we improve? And that's the model of education and discussions that we've had with young people, and they're brilliant. They know how to use tech better than we do. And if we think, oh yeah, we're catching up and we're creating it, well, they're going to be 10 steps ahead because they're kids. And so many people tell me, how do you do what you do? I do it because I play. I go into an app or a device or a program. It's like, oh, what does this do? And I push all the buttons and I record all the things and I accidentally go live and I share that to the world. And so what? It's play, it's curiosity. And through that curiosity and adaptivity is how we learn to then grow and move in that adaptability that these kids can really shift our mindset in, I think.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And that has been a key inspiration of why we created Awæcnian Academy, and this theme of inspiring our youth through stories. It took me back. I'm just going to share a brief story before our next gorgeous guest, who's going to be diving deeper into this theme around our children and our future. But when I went through my miscarriage as well, being a teacher, and I was in that area of the arts in dance and drama, and I had young women that were like 16, 17, some of them 18 years old in my senior classes. And when they gifted me this care package, and we've been talking about self-care and their awareness and their hearts to think of me as a human being, as a woman, I remember in the drama classroom dropping to my knees in just deep gratitude, in deep sadness, in deep love and awe, and feeling all these emotions. And as I dropped to my knees, all of them, these girls, just came and hugged me. And this lesson of our youth and our young people, actually they do care if they're in the right environments. And I pride myself in the career I've created, in creating those safe environments where that heart-centered leadership, that creativity, that play, that empathy and compassion was fostered. And I've seen it and I've witnessed it and I've felt it. And it was that moment that those girls taught me about sisterhood, that those young women inspired me to create Menaki Project, and inspired me to think of, well, is there more that we can do for our young women, our young men? And that was what fueled me into, looking, well, can we educate them more on their bodies, on the things that I went through, because they are curious, they do want to know, and they have such deep questions. And when they meet people like us, their hearts just crack open even more. And I know that we're going to be talking deeper into these beautiful universal promises we make to our soul, to ourselves, to each other in the contracts that we come in. And our next beautiful guest, who we felt her heart before in a beautiful meeting that we had with her, but Efrat, PhD, she's the author of The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children, Near-Death Experience, and the Parenting Techniques It Invites. A mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, a writer, a cosmic journeyer, and a shamanic energy healing practitioner, working mainly with children, teens, parents, and families, guiding spirituality aware families worldwide. We welcome Efrat, and I feel like she's a soul sister that is on this same journey, and that's why she's here with us today. So welcome, beautiful Efrat, and I hope we can get your beautiful video up to see your beautiful, unless it's my tech.
No, Fred's video is not on, and we can't hear Flea as well now.
Oh, look, the joys of tech.
Can you hear me?
You can't hear me because I'm muted, but I can see Efrat in the live,
Oh, I can't see
in the
her
stream,
here.
which is very unusual.
Oh, I cannot see her, but I can see her in the
Efrat,
live. In the live, she's there.
Yeah.
I'm
If
here.
you can jump out for a second and back into the link.
I can see you in the live too. I can hear you on there, but not on here. Okay, we might reset, and we'll try and get all of the things working as well. So, Flea, what would you like us all to do?
I'm just wondering if you might be in tomorrow. Do you have a link for tomorrow at all? If you can click on the link that I just shared in the group, that would be great, because that's the one for this chat.
Beautiful. And we've lost Flea. So, Shika, I'm sure Flea is still on the screen. You know, we have these beautiful conversations, and motherhood teaches us resilience and to be flexible, and to work with glitches like this, because that's what happens in life sometimes.
Oh, we can see her, Fred. Oh, we can see her.
There we go.
Welcome. I might do that intro one more time because it's such a beautiful intro. Actually, I might get Efrat. Do you want to say hello just so we can check your sound?
Yeah, hi. And I'll say I'm just inspired, in tears from each talk and each introduction. And I'm catching up on the ones I missed when I'm asleep. Oh, if anybody's listening to us, just catch up on everything. There's so much wisdom and heart, and I'm grateful to be here. Hi.
Oh, so beautiful. I'm going to just do your beautiful bio one more time. And folks that are listening in, thank you for just being patient. But Efrat Shokef, PhD, author of The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children, Near-Death Experience, and the Parenting Teachings It Invites. A mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, a writer, a cosmic journeyer, a shamanic energy healing practitioner, working mainly with children, teens, parents, and families. Efrat guides spiritually aware families worldwide. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
Beautiful. And we'll pass it over to you to share your beautiful session today.
Thank you. So Marie just gave an introduction, and I'll just right into our intention for this time. I will try to weave in different threads, both from my story as a mother and from my work as a shamanic energy healing practitioner, working with children and teens worldwide. As a beginning, this is my book, The Promise We Made, and I would like to start with reading a story, a mystical healing story that I in my book, in each chapter at the beginning, I share mystical healing stories. These are stories that come down as downloads in a technique which is like a basic shamanic journeying. And you can close your eyes, just listen, let the energy simmer, and then I will get into more content. Once upon a time, along the river of time, stood a human. Was he a man? Was she a woman? The edge of her figure were somewhat blurry. She seemed much taller than average. He appeared almost transparent to the naive eye, covered with soft, flowing, feathery clothing. The human started to walk downstream, and the more she walked, the more she took form. For some time, he played trying to have his hair short, trying to grow it long, shifting from one body structure to another, playing with the color of its skin. The more she walked forward, the finer were the details, until a beautiful, dark woman emerged, her hair falling down to her legs, her green eyes sparkling, her hands carrying light. She thought it was her time to jump into the water that would carry her to her new life, an adventure on earth. But the river asked her to wait. There are some more details you need to decide on, the river told her with no words. You can't come in yet. She sat and looked around, and there, on the other bank, were images of people walking, all kinds of families she would be born to. Single people, couples from both sexes or from one. So much variety and so many combinations. She was a bit overwhelmed. The river raised its water and pointed to the far right. What do you think about those over there, sitting together by the old tree? It asked her. She looked and felt her heart open. Yes, those, she replied. It is not going to be easy, you know, the river said, opening a screen-like surface before her eyes. You must look, it said. The woman did not want to look. The pictures she saw were unpleasant, but she did, and she had to make the best choice possible. Then the river ran the images forward, and the woman could see how her life would evolve with that couple by the old tree as her parents. Yes, she said. Are you sure? The river asked. I am, she replied and wanted to jump in. Not yet, said the river. There is one more detail to go over before you flow into your new life, an adventure on earth. A book of shimmering light came down from above. Nothing to do, said the river. Just look for the last time, so that you remember what you asked for in this lifetime, so that you awaken your heart to the path you asked to walk. The woman looked. Her eyes filled with tears of gratitude for the reminder. She had been so occupied with the creation of her temporary form and her choice of earthly parents that she had almost forgotten. She gathered the words of light coming out of the book and brought them into her heart. Then she sat quietly. And while she was sitting, her form became smaller and smaller until she was no more than an egg, an ovum, immediately after it met its sperm inside of her human mother-to-be. Love started to sprout. On a personal note, I read those stories as if I read them the first time. I love mystical healing stories because they invite us to remember. And it's a remember not at the level of our mind and not at the level of our heart, but at the level of our energy, our mythical, our soul journey. As a mother, I always wanted to be a mom. And I always knew that once I would become a mom, I would be a bit total and push other aspects of my life, like the academic career I was then walking, and other aspects, just push them and be a dedicated, devoted mom. I knew I wanted that time. It was something very always simmering within me. I did not expect the journey I would embark on as a mom. When my daughters were very small, my first was a little over 3, and my twin daughters, all girls, and they're all teen now, and they have this long braids, so beautiful. And they were 13 months old. I was involved in a very, very serious fatal car crash. 5 days before the car crash, I invited my community of moms, a mom circle, which every mom should have and make an effort to join one or create one with her neighbors, with the moms around, moms with newborns, moms with little ones. And we gathered our community, quite a lot of us, in my home at that meeting, because I wanted to celebrate a year. It was 13 months, but a year of sleepless night, twins, another toddler at home, just celebrating, and little did I know what that meeting is going to mean. As part of our gathering, I invited the other moms to share what motherhood meant for them. Let's pin that as one of the threads that would later lead me in my journey. What is motherhood? What is the essence of motherhood? This is the essence of this book. What is motherhood? And they each shared beautiful, beautiful shares. And I was last as a host. And I had plans of expressing my gratitude and a lot of ideas to share. And I couldn't say a word. I was choking on my words, choking literally. And all I managed to whisper was, I want to be their mom. And in my language, Hebrew, my first language, it sounds, אני רוצה להיות אמא שלהם. Nobody knew how to react or to relate to it. As with babies, things happened. Noise took over, and only one friend to my right just asked me, are you okay? And I had no idea. Was I okay? What did I just say? Again, pinning it as an understanding. It was a prayer to stay on earth as the mother of my own daughters. 5 days later, I bring my toddler to her daycare. I nurse the twins together. And a beautiful experience. Every mom to twin that has experienced this knows how powerful the unity and the oneness that happens when you nurse your twins together. And left them with my mom at home and drove to the one morning I was teaching at the time, because I was mostly home with my daughters. After my toddler was at home, people asked me that the girls were not with me in the car. Drove on my way to the college, just by the village, just left the village, and I felt a sense of a boom. Another car slipped to the right, turned left, and bumped into me. On a side note, I can say, and I'm jumping between the story and the insights and the outcomes. Today, I am a very good friend with the woman who slipped to the right, fixed to the left, did what each and every one of us would have done, and bumped into me. We are friends because she was a soul, a messenger, forgive my language, giving me a kick in the butt, inviting me to show up for life. But at that moment, it wasn't showing up for life. I was just immediately out of my body. My body was in the car, severely wounded, fatally wounded. I was barely breathing, but my soul left my body. Near-death experiences, which is a term I learned only later, exist, and now I know so many people who had near-death experience, but it wasn't something around me at that time, are a very common phenomena. Sadly, it's still not talked about enough, especially in the medical community, because if somebody would have asked me what happened in the hospital, somebody who understands this, things might have evolved differently. But at the time, I needed to figure it out myself. In those moments of not being in my body, I was immediately floating in this most beautiful, luminous space, a space of unconditional love, but it's not, there are no conditions there. It's not about unconditional. It is just love. And as I was floating there, I could feel the love in my cells. And I talk about it, and every time I talk about it, and I talk about this a lot now that that my book, The Promise We Made, has been published. And every time I talk about it, I feel it in my cells, because this is what I am made of. This is what each one of you is made out of. This is what our children are made out of. I was remembering who I am. I was remembering all that I have forgotten since I crossed the river of time and came into this human body, red hair, glasses. And just to give a sense of the experience, as I was floating, I was seeing other beings that later I understood were beings that were leaving Earth, not like me, visiting for a moment and then having a chance to come back, people who have died. And they all had various, sometimes it was one being coming forward to them, sometimes they took human form, sometimes it was a group. There was even an orb of light just coming forward to those who were floating forward with me, and enveloping them in love, just accepting them. Someone once asked me, what does it mean to envelop in energy? They were just surrounding them, they were just present, and then they would float forward to. But I couldn't. There was a very clear barrier that I couldn't cross. At some point, a figure that I recognized at that time as my grandfather, but as I share also in the book, I'm not sure it was indeed my grandfather or my guidance taking the form of my grandfather in order for me to feel comfortable. This is something, luminous guidance, energy, it's all energy. So if we can't see it and experience it as energy, which today I can, but then I couldn't, they take a form that we can relate to. And it's about learning how to recognize its frequency, because they can change form, but that's a bit out of topic. My grandfather guide, after we exchange the loving telepathic communication, no words, just invited me to stand over a shimmering white balcony and view humanity. And when we walk life here, we walk in a geographical location. We know our scenery. Sometimes we travel to other countries and we meet others. We are privileged to have this global gathering of mothers worldwide. But you see me in my room. I see you in your room. It's a limited perspective. And Earth is so beautiful. Nature is so beautiful. And the humans, there's so many beautiful humans walking. And I was seeing a lot of scenes, both the beauty and also a lot of the sadness that is mostly a result of let's frame it as confused human choices, and it felt like days. I saw so much in terms of learning what humanity is. But in earthly time, it was 7 to 8 minutes, not much more than that. At some point, our time ended, and my grandfather guide clearly communicated, our time is over. You need to go back now. I wasn't given a choice to stay where I am. I wasn't given it wasn't anything, nobody asked me. I didn't feel I needed to be asked. It was like something set. And as I was floating forward, before that, I was just floating backwards, back into my broken body. That was a bit painful. I'm saying it now with a smile, but that was very painful. I think the only, it was much more painful than the one physical pain I really experienced, which was contractions before birth. From that moment on, and I'm going to skip some of it, I fell into my body, a man that he's a real man, real human. His name is Light, um, in Hebrew. He came and talked to me and tried to see if the girls were in the car or not. He saw the basics of the Click Connect, and I came in. I was very clear. I told him nobody was in the car. I don't know how I had this clarity. I gave him my home phone number and instructed that they call my husband. It was less than 10 minutes drive, and he was home, and I came in and out, saw what's happening from above, and then using a helicopter, because I didn't have any chance to make it otherwise, I was taken to the hospital. ICU, months of operation, coming and going, and a long process of physical recovery and soul recovery. Near-death experiences, like many other spiritual, transcendent experiences, are often labeled as initiations. And for me, as a mom, as who I am, it wasn't an initiation, it was an invitation. And I think this is true for most people I know. Because sadly, the way we raise our children, the way we were raised, there is a gap between our spiritual self and our human self, a gap that should be bridged. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And because it's like we don't have the carpet, the foundations to stand on as soon as we have a really deep spiritual experience, or we face a life event that shakes us. Because the invitation to step onto our soul's journey and show up to what we came here to be, that information in the Book of Light that we each hold and have, and lives within us as ambers, even if it's not in our awakened awareness, is just waiting there. But we need foundations, and I did not have the foundations I now try to give others, and I know so many others with so many life invitations, not just near-death experiences or spiritual events, that also experienced something that invited them to show up, to change, and they needed to build a foundation. So the same was true for me. I was physically recovering, and I was trying to integrate and understand what happened. Why am I different? And I recall talking with friends and close friends and those that I started to share the story with, and saying I feel different. And at the beginning, they would say, "You're not different at all. You're the same. You're the same. You're the same." And now, years later, they know I've really, really changed. But I also understand their reactions because they needed me to stay who I was. There is a conception, and it's very much old paradigm, but we need to be aware of it, that when something happens to us, all the environment wants us to do is to return to be who we are. So if I was able to try teaching again, that was meant I was healing. But for me, it wasn't healing. It was, again, doing what I'm not supposed to be doing and not having the time to figure out what it is that I am to do. And it's very human, but it does not leave any room for change. When we go to those comfort zones, it's say, okay, I'm good. Working does not mean you're healed. Being productive does not mean you're healed. Being who you are means you're on that path of healing. And those delicate differences in the meaning are extremely, extremely important. As I was recovering, I was shedding any definition I was holding, and I didn't care about shedding them. It wasn't an easy process saying, okay, so I'm not going to be teaching in university anymore. I'm not going to be facilitating groups the way I had been. Here I am teaching. I do work with groups, but at that time I thought I was not going to go back to any of the old stuff, which are now tools that are weaving into my life and how I'm walking it. The one thing that mattered was finding a way to become my daughter's mom. The situation was months in the hospital. They did not visit me a lot because the visits were traumatic for me and for them. I wasn't able to touch them. I wasn't able to hug them. I wasn't able to do anything. So I would look at them, and I was really waiting for them to come to the hospital, and I just wanted the visit to end. And I would send them with my mom, my father, my mother-in-law, my husband, just go get them something to eat, get them out of here. It wasn't good for them. It wasn't good for me. But I wanted to come back home. And then when I was home, I wasn't able to do anything. I was sitting on the couch, falling. That was a good moment. In other moments, I was just lying in bed or going in and out in operation. That communicated inconsistency. What can mom do? I was in really, really, really bad shape. I was recovering. I was getting better, but I was not able to take care of myself. I had my husband and my mom. I had a stoma open, which was later closed. They would help me exchange it. Really, 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 all the little details. I had people cut my food. So I was there, but I wasn't. I was more absent than present as a mom. And that led to a process. And there are a number of threads, I think, that led me in my journey to where I am now. I'm a very active mom. I am homeschooling my daughters. And those threads, I think, are important to understand. One thread was what makes a mom? What defines a mom? Because it wasn't easy for me to acknowledge that just before the car crash and everything that had happened, I felt I was a good mom because I was feeding, cooking, managing the laundry, hugging, playing, cuddling, doing everything, having time for all of them. I'm not taking away from that power of those acts. They were really important, and they are important for each little one, and also when they're teens. But that was what defined me. That's what, and that's not the definition of motherhood that I walk with today. So I was asking and trying to get an answer. What is the essence of motherhood? What makes us our daughters or sons, or they moms, parents? And this understanding led me to go back to the soul contracts. And with the divine dimensions, it opened up for me in my near-death experience, which I now travel to. That's why the bio said cosmic journeyer. Using shamanic journeying, I travel the cosmos, and I get downloads, and I'm guided. That led me to explore, do we have soul contracts? Do we have promises? And a contract and a promise are different, because a promise is something we commit to through our hearts. A contract can be negotiated. Generally, within our time frame, and you can read more about this in my book and on my website, we have personal contracts. My daughters chose a redheaded mom, a personality. I live in a very challenging country. They chose to come to me and my husband. It's always a dual choice. It's important to say that in the personal contract, yes, often souls choose to be born to one biological mom and be adopted by another mom, have an extra mom, a bonus mom, a stepmom come into their lives. Sometimes there is an aunt or a significant adult walking with the family, which is in a way often was chosen by the souls before they came and were born into earth. So the choices of the personal spectrum of our promises is very broad, and creates the conditions that we need, and brings in the people and the humans that we need, so that we would experience what we came here to experience. And that differs for each one of us. It differs for each child in the family. Even my very identical twins, they have different needs, and they ask for different conditions to be created by myself, by my husband, by us as a nuclear family. Then there are the universal promises. And the universal promises that define us as moms are essential for children to be able to walk their essence. And I will get to those 3 universal promises that I share in the promise we made in a second. A second thread, the first thread is what makes us a mom? What's the essence of motherhood? A quest that I was on in order to figure out who I am, because I wasn't participating in any of the doing. And I needed to define myself in some way to understand why I am still their mom, even when others, and we were lucky to have other loving ones, do be the active and do what needed to be done. The second thread talks about the love that I experienced in my ND. I wanted to raise my daughters knowing this love. I don't want them to die. I'm willing to die daily. The actual dying and leaving the body is really beautiful. I know it's hard for people to hear that. It's really beautiful. I'm willing to do it daily. The challenge is the suffering that helps people leave their body, or that allows a quickening of learning of a lot of lessons while the suffering goes on. And the second part, which is really difficult, is for those of us who are staying behind and are really, really missing those souls. But that can also be partially bridged once we know how to communicate. If they want to communicate with us, not everyone that is living needs or it's right for them to communicate back. How do I share the love with my daughters? And I wrote the book, and they all read it. They were very cute. They were like reading their mom's story in an organized way, not just hearing all the little bits and pieces. I wanted them to feel it in their body, not at their mom's story or read it in a book. And as I was recovering and healing, I noticed that when I call them soul moments of being aligned to my very high truth, my cells are tingling. I feel the joy that I felt while I was above in my NDE, feeling the love. When I'm not aligned, I don't feel that. It was more than that. When I was collecting those moments and having more than one moment, or making a decision which was really aligned and anything that is aligned for one family member is always also aligned for others, even if it doesn't look like it. At the soul level, it's like that's part of our personal agreements. I was feeling physically better. And at first it was very hard for me to talk my truths. It was very hard for me to talk my truths because I didn't have the language. It was very hard for me to talk my truths because I felt I was anyway a burden, and everybody else is doing stuff. So who am I to even say that maybe we should do something different and start changing things? And I did not feel I had the right to express anything. So it began with noticing what is right for me, and only then expressing this truth also in communicating it to my family, to my girls, which were then very low. When we walk aligned to our soul's wishes and journey, to our soul's essence, to our soul's truth, we walk the love that we are. And it's very hard with all the conflict and noise that we're walking. It's impossible to stay in a bubble. And we're homeschooling and we are in a very good bubble, but it's still things are happening around, and things are happening to people, and there's so much confusion around us. But it is possible to feel and learn how true love feels within the body, how true joy feels within the body. Joy in a way is a parameter, a reflection that we are aligned or not aligned. Whole joy, not just being happy because you're in a party. And for me, that was an answer. When I realized that when I walk aligned moments, soul moments, I am feeling the love and then radiating and communicating it energetically to my daughters, I realized I have to share, I have to become my promise to them. And this is a promise all moms, all parents, all significant adults made to children, to be everything we can to do to radiate this love, to be who we are, to walk aligned. That's our promise to ourselves, to walk aligned. And then our promises to our children is to create the conditions that they would walk aligned, so that they would stay true to themselves and walk life with joy, because Earth is so beautiful. There is no reason that any low frequencies would pull us back. They do. They're around us, but it's a choice of where we're putting our focus. And when kids and children and teens align to their truth, they're walking life joyful. The challenging that life puts, the environment, the confused environment, offers them, just to weave away, because they know who they are and they can make choices that are true and aligned to their essence. So this was the second thread. First thread, what is motherhood? Second thread, how do we share the love? How do we raise children to be who they are, their truth, so that they would feel and know that the love that they are, not because we tell them we love them, and that's very important, but because they know they are love, not just loved, they are love. This led me to a third thread, which I share in the book and in part of my weaving in. I was remembering in my near-death experience that I was more than a physical body. I came back from my near-death experience seeing energies, which is something I always walked with, an ability, but I was really blocking this ability because it was scary for many reasons. And I didn't have the guidance that I today offer teens and children. That's part of my journey, not receiving the guidance, so that I would understand how important it is to give children and teens very basic tools and guide them and explain to them what they're seeing. What does it mean that they connect to the field and know something? And that brought me to the understanding that I need to weave, and that was my process of weaving my spiritual self and integrating what I learned and what I was continuously learning. As soon as I integrated the near-death experience in the downloads that I was receiving and the training that I was receiving within my human form, my physical, my human life, our lifestyle as a family, every aspect. We're all spiritual beings. Some of us need, like myself, like my daughters, which are all spiritually aware and very intuitive. They're little born shamans. Some of us need to be explicit and work with the tools and learn how to work with various tools that we come with, because that's part of our soul journey in this lifetime. Some of us don't. Sometimes the most spiritual thing is just to walk who you are, be a carpenter, be cleaning the roads, be a librarian and not in contact with a lot of people. That's a bit of stereotypes that I'm using, so forgive me for that, but just for our understanding. Being spiritual is walking who you are. That's my answer. But for us to weave spirituality into our lives and share our spiritual tools with our children, each one of us must ask, what does it mean for each of you to be spiritual? What is spirituality? Is it about religion? Is it about eating healthy? Is it about connecting to the land and the earth? Is it about ceremonies? Is it about music? Is it about sports? Is it about using energetic tools like it is in my practice? We each need to walk our path. And when we walk our path, we're walking our spiritual self. Children need us to communicate that to them. Children need to know the language of energy, because often one of the challenges is that they don't have the words to express, to describe that energies that they're seeing, that the beings that they're talking to. So many parents dismiss what children are saying, and by that tell them, just don't talk about this. And it's not because they can't give guidance. It's mostly, in my experience and with the parents I meet, it's because they're scared, because they didn't know what to do with it as children, because they need guidance. And that's where I and you heard Matilda and Carol in this summit, and maybe others, and there are others in the world, that's part of the service we give. We give this kind of guidance and help families weave in spirituality. Searching for the essence of motherhood and understanding our universal soul promises we made to our children. Learning and understanding how important it is to share with my daughters, and now with many other teens and children, all teen and children need to know how to be aligned to their truth so that they would walk the love that they are and not just know it's existent. It's like an idea of oneness. No, feel that oneness in your physical, in your everyday. And weaving in spirituality and understanding that walking spirituality, the third thread, is part of who we are. And we have to find the way that is right for our family. And it will be different for each family because that's part of the beauty. We're each having a different journey. Although when we tap into the truth of it, it all aligns. Brought me to share in my book, The Promise We Made, 3 very foundational promises. The first promise is truth. From the moment our kids are born, we confuse them. They know they want to nurse now, but we tell them, no, not now, because we need to take care of their older brother or sister. They want to go to sleep. We keep them awake because our partner is coming back late from work and we want them to have a moment with them, or because we are now on the phone with a good friend and we really need this phone call for our self-care, but we confuse them. They don't like the energy of another human, but it's someone close to us, so we let them hold them and we don't listen to the little signs. The beauty is that there's so many spiritually aware parents and families these days that are attentive to their kids' needs. But it's a question to be aware of. It's a balance. It's life is life on earth. But observing your own kids, I observe my daughters and the children and teens I work with. What do they need? And how do we nurture their own truths? As they grow, if they don't want to go to a friend, there is a reason why they don't want to go to the friend. Maybe it's a really good friend they would love to meet outside or meet in their own house, but they don't want to go into the other house because there is a bit of unaligned energy. And that energy doesn't necessarily have to be a negative energy. It can just be unaligned to their energy or something, or an energy that pushes their buttons and they're not ready to work or resolve at the soul level those issues. And kids really, really, really know what is right for them and what is not right for them. And it's our promise to them that we would do everything we can to be attentive, to notice, and to nourish the environment so that they can stay aligned with their own truth. It is respecting their truth, even if we think they're wrong. If they're making a choice, we need to let them learn and adjust. And also know that we don't know better than them. Maybe we have experience on earth and we are their guides here, but we don't know what our soul journey is because we kept it a secret from ourselves. We cannot know about their soul journey, which they keep from themselves. The only way we can show up fully is by being who we are. And that's where we fulfill the same promises of truth. Also, finding our own truth, finding the ways to walk our own truth as an example, as a reflection, as a modeling. That's when we serve because they choose the potential of us, not just the confused humans they're coming to. And there is a lot more to that, but our time is limited. The second promise talks about being attentive. Children know how to listen to their truths. They know to recognize their post-it signs, but we teach them that no, teachers know better, doctors know better, parents know better. Respect what the adults say or the elderly says. And in many cases, we do know, the adults of us, we do know how things work, but we take aware of their own ability to listen to themselves. So nurturing and creating conditions for children to gaze, to do nothing, not to have a full schedule. Teach them that it's okay to have time to go for simple. And again, we can elaborate that, but I think the promises are so foundational that you all get it in your own way, in your own family, in your own culture. The third and last promise out of the three, because there are six more coming up. Not today. I'm really excited about them. The third promise that I share in the promise we made talks about the motion, and that's the soul moments. Sometimes, as parents, the gap between where we are and where our soul wants to be is really huge. And we understand we're on a soul journey together with our children, and we want to show up and we want to start to unweave what needs to be unweaved. Some of us carry a whole lineage that we need to unweave and heal. So it takes a long time to bridge that gap. But what it's really important that we know as parents, that as soon as we take the first tiny action, the first action of showing up, of even becoming aware, okay, I'm going to try to have aligned moments, soul moments. And usually when we try to have aligned moments, soul moments, we start seeing the unaligned ones. That's already a communication, an energetic soul communication to our children. You stay where you are. You're aligned. Stay where you are. I'm going to find my way to you. And this is crucial legitimacy that our children's souls need for them to stay true, to stay attentive, to know who they are and walk the love that they are. I want to summarize. There are a lot more to talk about, but to summarize, if there is one thing I want you to take away from this talk, open up to the idea that you're on a soul journey with your children. And if you're a soul and they're a soul or a being, which is a bit different, but the same for our understanding now, and you're all on a journey, that means you're all evolved. No one is better than the other. No one is higher than the other. It's a matter of mutually walking, noticing the mutual invitations, embracing the invitations to learn, to grow, to become. For some of us, it's to write a book, for like myself, or become a shaman and heal others, be a conduit for healing others, mediate healing. For some, it's about play, just embracing the moments in the now, so that you can return and become who you came here to be. And when we gift the world with the gift of our children being true to themselves, the ripples are huge. Every child, and many of them are sensitive, spiritually aware, that walks, ripples the energy and ripples the legitimacy that comes through us and through them. It comes to all, it goes all family, wide into the lineage that is alive and 7 generations backwards and forwards. It ripples to their friends. It ripples to their parents. It ripples so far, awakening light. And that's what raises the frequency of the earth.
Oh, wow. I'm just in awe, Efrat. I was making comments here and making comments on Facebook, and this piece around bridging these worlds of mind, body, spirit, and really anchoring that in, not only for ourselves, but for our children and our future leaders to witness that. And again, this witnessing piece has been a beautiful theme. I think is really powerful. And thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably your story. And I'm always just in awe of what people can go through and continue to choose life and the soul work. So just really honoring you and thanking you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would just like to thank Efrat for not only coming here but also writing the book that she's written, because I've been going on everywhere I get an opportunity and I see Efrat and I'm like, go buy her book, go buy her book, go buy her book. I still don't like. I'm waiting for the hard copy to come in my hand. But the lessons there are so amazing to think about. But I have a question for you, Efrat, because I've been reading your book as well, and I think this question will help many parents out of the confusion of the balance part of raising a child. And what happens is, I'll take my example that very keen, I'm very minutely listening to my children's wishes and things that disturb them, and their little twitches and their body. Because I mean, that's a photographer and self-portrait. I teach the same thing. Why do you flinch? Why do you move? Why do you do something happens? And I pay attention to these little things. And sometimes a question comes to my mind that I'm paying too much attention and listening in too much than really needed, which might take the resilience out of my children because of too much attention being paid. So I have to sometimes try and step back and say, how do I strike a balance? Because end of the day, me as a person, as a soul, has come in with this gift of noticing the extra movement and the extra thing. Not necessarily they need that from me all the time, and not necessarily that prepares them to go out in the world to deal with people who don't notice this. So when you say that, like paying attention to children and understanding the soul journey, what is your suggestion for parents who themselves are sensitive and are taking the spiritual path of parenting, and not necessarily your children need it or not need it, and how do you prepare them to still go out in the world and find different kinds of people with different abilities and gifts or whatever is coming their way? How do you do that to take this space? Because it gets very confusing after a point. You can see it, and to just keep quiet about it and say, let's build some resilience. Because probably I built that resilience because nobody was paying attention. So I built it up over a period of time, because they were like, my father was like that. I'll say my father's probably built it up because nobody was paying attention, and then he paid attention to me, and then I'm overly paying attention, including my father's learning and my learning. Now it's like so much that sometimes I feel I have to step back and just watch. What do you have to say about that? Because I think I'm taking the resilience part away from my children by having overly understanding of every single twitch and attaching it to my feeling. And I think many parents go through this, who go through the spiritual, where is the line you need to draw to become a witness, which is my favorite word since last year. How do you just become a witness? And what do you have to say about that?
That's a huge question,
I
Shika.
know, I know it.
And I'll try. I grew up in an environment where you need to be strong. You need to be able to deal with things. Um, I'm a grandchild to Holocaust survivors. They all had their epic stories, and our community is the same. All grandparents came from somewhere. All of them had many Holocaust survivors. All had their epic stories, and then the generations of our parents that went through wars here and was hoping that we wouldn't have to go through them. And here we are. And I'm going to really hold my breath not to start crying about that piece. Here I am. It is a bit challenging. And since we have to be strong, and that is true for so many places in the world, being sensitive is not legitimized. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to handle noise, and it's a very collective culture. Parties, big family gatherings, and I couldn't handle that. So I was building my elephant skin. I don't know if that's an expression also in English, becoming like tough, and did a lot of things that in retrospect I would have skipped in my life. And as a mom, I ask myself, what is more important? Is it more important? And I'm intentionally trying to answer your question with my story. Is it more important that my girls would be resilient and manage this tough situations and culture and so forth? Or is it more important that they stay true to their essence and be who they are? So, and you know my choice, the second one.
So is
um,
mine, but but
yeah,
still, they go out and they
yeah,
have to.
so it makes going out very difficult. This is part of what led our decision as a family, a decision that was led, it's important to say, by my daughters, with our support, to leave the school system and homeschool, because we realized that although it was a good school, amazing families, a lot of them are our friends, our community, being in a classroom with a noise, with a dynamic, with the teachers raising their voices, here it's very common, sadly, was just not fitting to who they are. So we were privileged because not in every country you can homeschool, and we also have the means and the ability to teach them. And I'm working from home, and everything was, it was possible. It's not always possible, but um, it's and we spend out when we can, we spend time outdoors, but a child chooses their parents' essence. I'll try to summarize it. When your boys chose you, Shika, they chose the essence, the potential. They knew on the personal agreement that they're coming to a mom that is noticing, and not just that she's noticing, that part of her soul development and process is going to be to notice even more and more and more, because you're evolving. And as we become sensitive and we open up spiritually, we all become more sensitive to the energies, to what's around. That's a natural process. So for our kids, resilience maybe doesn't mean, yes, there are a lot of places I just don't take my daughters to. We go to a museum when the museum is empty. We will skip it. We'll be in a city in Europe, and we'll skip all the really exciting attractions that they would love because they're crowded. That's our choice. We would go to hike and be in nature. So we balance it, and we carve our own path as a family with what's fitting to us and not what society perceives to be right. Is that always possible? No. Do they need to face all kinds of situations? Yes. And this is where a lot of energetic tools of protection, of knowing how to clear themselves after they met others, all kinds of stuff like that come into play. Um, and I'll add that there are a lot of such free resources on my website for people to just download and get those tools so that they can teach their own kids, because the best teachers for every kid are their own parents, and that's true also for adult children. So
Yeah, thanks. I did pick up one of the tools from your last summit where about the zipping of the energy from Eva when she goes
yeah,
to her spirit camps, and she said just zip your energy. And my son was going through a lot of bullying, and I just told him that why when the person is approaching you, why don't you try to zip your energy? And he did zip his energy, and he understood it because he's emotionally so way beyond, and he understood it in one sentence what zipping of the energy meant. And he got out of the bus and he said, it worked, it absolutely worked. And
because it works. Even
yeah,
if we
it
don't
works.
see
And
it, it
at
works.
the age of 10, to be able to say it worked and to be able to understand, uh, and thank you for that gift, because yeah, if they've chosen me, they exactly know what I have to teach them and where I have to go. And that's why when I talk the language that's very close to mine, they understand it much better than trying to talk to the language of the world to them. And
They
so that
chose you, and every child has a reason why they choose their parents. It can, and again, it doesn't have to be a biological parent. There's so
right,
many types of significant adults in our lives,
yeah,
but it's a choice. It's a choice. But for us to show up for that choice, we need to be our essence as well, and
right,
that's hard work. It's hard
yeah,
work, but it's rewarding.
yeah.
There's
Thank you
nothing
for
more rewarding than that. Yeah,
it's beautiful because it adds to my whole work of authenticity and your essence, and what I work around. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
that's
aligned.
beautiful. But I know I've asked this question many times and by many mothers, and what about resilience and what about balancing it out? What about the world? So thank you for answering that, Efrat.
You're welcome.
Okay, Marie and Flea, all yours. I just had to ask.
Oh, so many moments of reflection through all of that. And like just brave courage to share that story and to keep fighting when a lot of people, potentially don't. They see it as a negative and fall into that victim mentality and don't continue with their journey. So it's both, a blessing and a curse in the same sense of fighting for that survival, and sometimes the hardship it takes to actually get out of it, like in that moment of like redeveloping or healing or whatever it is that has caused the conflict to begin with. But that self improvement, that knowing, okay, I'm here, I was saved, I was, all of this was for a reason. Let's take this on board. And I definitely resonate with the we choose our parents, and I know why I chose mine, and I can see like all of the benefits and the glories. And like it's hard when you share your story, and especially stories that have growth usually come from the negative aspect. But what I didn't get to share earlier was all the beautiful things of that free lifestyle, of the amount of places and the beautiful areas I got to experience, all of the different cultural things of moving around and shifting. And like it was so open in that way that I got to meet so many different people. But we generally fall to that negative and we forget about that. So it's beautiful to be reminded that, yeah, we chose it, and what are the reasons we chose it. And when we go back and look at the beautiful things in the negative experiences, it's like, oh, of course it was there. I did love my husband, like I had to have, otherwise there wouldn't have been any sort of connection or anything to begin with. So you have to understand that like those things are there and they build, and sometimes we just grow apart. And that's that beauty in that spiritual growth and this understanding and teaching this to young people. And it's just beautiful. All of this is so beautiful, the way it all fits together and comes back in this loving story and just gift of life and celebration of look what we can do. Look at the survival, look at the growth, the journeys.
Yeah. Not use the word survival, because I think we want them to see the beauty. We want them to see the opportunity. We want them to see the choice. We all grew up on old paradigms of victimhood, of seeing the negative, of getting attention using the negative. It is possible otherwise, but as I said just a sentence ago, it's a lot of hard work, and we're all four of us and the others in the summit. We're all in that work. We're in that process. All of us. That's part of the beauty. But yes, seeing the beauty, choosing, constantly choosing, knowing that we do have a choice.
Yeah, so powerful. And we're moving into a paradigm of thriving. These old stories that they do frame our understanding, and yet we can release them and make new stories. And we're going to continue that in our next panel with our beautiful guests. So we're going to have a couple minutes break, and we're going to join everybody back with some beautiful new speakers as well in our panel up shortly. Thank you so much, Efrat. And if people want to connect with you before we go, how can they connect with you?
So my website is my name, EFRATSHOKEF.com. And my book, The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children, available everywhere books are sold, and specifically Amazon, I think, is the easiest for everyone worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys. Oh my goodness. Welcome back, everybody, to Awæcnian Academy's Mum Summit, Mothers United Moment. And we're here on day 2 with our final beautiful panel, which is looking at shaping the future, the role of education and parenting in empowering the next generation. And it's so beautiful to have Efrat joining us again, and the gorgeous Melanie, who we interviewed not long ago as well. And this powerful piece around education, inspiring the children that we get to have guardianship over, who have chosen us, versus also being in community, working with parents in the fields that we're all in, I think is really, really powerful. And we touched on it a little bit in our last session with Efrat, but I'm so excited to be continuing this beautiful conversation. So you're joining your beautiful host, Marie, Felicia, and the gorgeous Shika. And we also have the beautiful Melanie Hibbett joining us, who is an education coach specialist, author, and speaker, empowers students, parents, and educators to build resilience, self-esteem, and self-belief. Through her transformative guidance, individuals unlock their inner strength and embrace their full potential. And Shika, I'd love for you to just reintroduce beautiful Efrat.
I mean, both Melanie and Efrat are very, very close to me in my heart. I mean, I've just been seeing them do such fabulous work. But okay, Efrat is who I'm introducing. And Efrat, PhD, author of Promise We Made, 3 universal soul promises we made to our children, near that experience, and the parenting teachings. It invites a mother, wife, daughter, friend, writer, cosmic journeyer, and shamanic energy healing practitioners working mainly with children, teens, parents, and families, guiding spiritually aware families worldwide. Efrat, I'm reading. I'm not very good at reading, but introducing Efrat's work, the Promise We Made book, I personally say it again. Every opportunity I will get, every mother should get that book because there's something that we all really need to learn from her experience. So thank you for writing that book, Efrat.
Oh, so beautiful. Thanks, Shika. And this topic I know we're all really passionate about. And I know we've shared a couple of intros, but I'm going to invite us to tap into that passion. Why are we here intentionally talking about this subject? Because I know we've felt your hearts and your mission, your vision, but those that are listening in, parents, teachers, educators, coaches, whether it's now or in the future, this beautiful piece around legacy building, around thinking about our future, not only now in the present, but for generations to come, is really, really powerful. And I know for me, my background in education, I've got a master's in education specializing in the arts, and I've been teaching for over 17 years in particularly dance, drama, English, and I now do a lot of relief teaching in various primary schools. I worked a lot in high school, so seeing our young adults who were craving great role models, craving, adults that got them, and being that leader, which I loved. And I love teenagers and I love their potentiality. And I mentioned at the start of last time, like, this is what drove me in that part of my career, to be that guiding light, to be the example, to be the safe space that they could explore. And then going into motherhood, wanting to be that role model for my daughter and embody that, and embody the divine feminine and balance my own energy and harmonize the things that were out of alignment, so she can see not only the relationship with myself, but with my husband and with her, so she can navigate her own relationships. And this beautiful vision of creating something with Flea and our passion for growth, education, like, we are all the apprentice and the master at the same time. And I've really fostered this piece around continual growth and learning for myself, and chosen to look at, well, let's tap into the nervous system. How do I regulate my nervous system well? And it was through breath work. So I'm an advanced breath work facilitator. And through those experience, experiences, a lot of shamanic wisdom came online, a lot of pieces around my intuition and my womb priestess lineage. You know, I've come from a background of Oriental, Asian, Filipino background, and really embracing that over the last 4 years in my feminine embodiment remembrance of that essence we were speaking about. And so this fullness of my being, of my essence, the goddess self that I've claimed in our last beautiful summit, and being the blessing, being the walking, humble yet powerful frequency that just gets to bless the ground, bless the earth, bless the people in my field, and know that whatever I do, I just get to be me, has been a really profound journey. And I'm going to pass it over to Flea, because this passion that we share in connection, in creativity, in this essence, in that deep sense of spirituality and mind, body, spirit, and bringing it back into holistic essence. It's like, imagine if our young people, if our children knew all this earlier. I mean, they do. But what if we could bring it out and bring that creative, thriving paradigm that we spoke about at the end of Afrat's earlier? What if we could totally bring that online? So Flea, I'm going to pass it over to you to share a bit about your background and your passion.
Yeah, my why is very much that to stop the generational, I call it a curse. I don't know what else to call it, but it's that wisdom that isn't actually shared when it needs to be shared. Like, so many people get to the point in their life, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever age it is, it's usually midlife, where this awareness or understanding kind of goes, hang on a sec, I've just lived my whole life doing all of these things for what? That's not me. That was somebody else's expectations, somebody else's desires, or somebody else's rules. And when you sit with that, and I've sat with that a fair bit, it's like, why did I have to wait until now to know this stuff? Where were the people when I was growing up in all of those homes, in all of, my experience? Where were the people that actually knew themselves enough to say, hang on a sec, no, you be you. Don't worry what those people are saying. Don't hide in a corner. Don't be, the shy little timid girl. You're enough. Where were those people that could recognize where that trauma was actually taking place, where that rejection of self starts to take a hold on us, and we lose those parts of ourselves that do know? Like, as Marie said, these kids do know. But somewhere along the line, someone says, oh no, not for you, or, oh no, you're wrong. You're talking nonsense. You made it up. What a great imagination. Can't ever be real, right? It's these things that cripple us, because if we know in our soul, it's like, I know these worlds are real. Like, how can people come up with stories of dragons and mythical lands and all of this just purely out of thin air with no concept to guide them? Like, these things of other dimensional realities and other lives, and even just past human existence or earthly existences. We don't know what dinosaurs are like. We're guessing. We didn't physically see them to actually draw what they look like. They could have been the prettiest things on the planet, for all we know. We take a guess based on the structure of bones and how and where it was laid out, but it's a guess. It's a guess at a life of an experience that we don't know anything about. And that's why these stories that get missed and get lost along the ways, the wisdom of mothers, is what shapes and protects the innocence of youth. But so many mothers got separated, and the teachers forgot why they were teaching. And it just became a world of, okay, I'm just going to follow the system. And the system, as much as we try to conform to it, doesn't work, because we can see the kids getting lost. And so when we talk education has to start first with knowing who you are. And no matter what age that is, a child knows. I've been in early childhood with little kids that I want to cut hair and I want to do this, miss. Okay, yes, I think you'd be really good at it. Let's see how you can do that. And they play and they do those things. Now, they may never be a hairdresser, but it doesn't mean that their passion or their desire in their future life isn't related to that. But we go, oh yeah, that's not the best job. Let's go work here, or the actors and the, the high professions that most people don't get to be. It's in those moments where we crush people and say, no, I could be an actor if I wanted to. If it was in my soul, if that was my core thing, I'd be out there driving it. I'd be trying to find gigs, and I'd be acting and performing on any stage I can find. Hi. These are the things that we get to create when we know ourselves, where we get to be ourselves and accepted. And I was the fearful child because I thought I would be rejected. With this knowledge and understanding of myself, I can now stand here with all of you ladies very confidently, knowing that this is going around the world, and just be myself. That's why we teach this way, and that's why we come together in this. And it kind of sums me up in a whole lot of experience. Educator, teacher, mother, everything. I've done pretty much anything that you can think of. The jack of all trades, me. What do I love? This. Sharing and empowering people, celebrating what we can do together. And I know I can't be it all. We've got to have a team. We've got to have a community, a family, a tribe. We've got to have a place where we can guide these kids to, because some of their parents don't know. Some of their teachers aren't there yet. And that's what we're here for. So I think that answers it, and went off on a nice big passionate spiel, but yeah.
I love it. Owning it. Melanie, what are you passionate about? This vision, this mission, this purpose?
Wow, ladies, that was amazing, and everything she said just resonated so much about our children being true to themselves. My passion is very much about transforming a generation, for our children to know that they have limitless potential and that they have the ability to be, do, and have anything is that they desire. But as Felicia says, growing up, we often unknowingly sometimes limit what our children believe that they can do. We put barriers to their learning. We put barriers to their growth based on our own limiting beliefs, based on the traumas and nightmares that we may have gone through growing up, because we never got to claim our true selves. We never got to be our magnificent selves, or other people that are influencing our children's lives. Say words and say things that impact them in such a profound way, and sometimes they don't even realize that that is what they're doing. So my passion is very much about instilling in our children the belief that they are magnificent, that they are wonderfully and beautifully made, and that they have within their birthright to be able to create and manifest and be anything that they desire, anything that they can believe and dream and see themselves doing. They have the ability to create that. And so I'm very much about teaching those principles of success, which starts with the foundation of belief in oneself, of harnessing the power of our thoughts, of recognizing and catching those negative thoughts, of being able to shield ourselves from other people's negative words and other people's negative beliefs, because we are strong and true in who we are, and we know ourselves, and as parents, we need to embody that for ourselves so that we can teach that to our children, so that they can see it in us. It's a natural thing to follow through. And so, yeah, that is very much my passion, and that's very much what I teach through my Genius Me book, the principles and all of those things. It's like we have to empower our children to be the magnificent versions of themselves.
Oh, so beautiful. And when you put a room full of passionate, magnificent women together, Efrat, it's just this testament of what you were just sharing in your keynote before, with this essence and this promise that we made to ourselves in the contracts to uplift humanity, to uplift women, to uplift our children and the next generations by owning our essence and our light. So to extend on what you were sharing earlier, what is it, I suppose, about this work that you are so passionate about?
Allow me to start with a deep aho to everything that has been said and the energy transmitted. Let me pick on something it was brought up earlier. We have no idea, Flea, you said it, what our future looks like. And I think we have a holding, and we share it here, that frequency is changing, dynamics are changing, but we maybe some of us have a vision of what we want to see, but again, we don't know. And as we don't know, or we mostly don't know, and we maybe know a little bit in each one of us, and maybe we can weave it together. When thinking of the future of our children, I feel, again, and it goes back to what I said earlier, the gift that they need is anything, and each child is different. Whatever each child needs to stay true to their essence. I look at the future and I look at what's happening with AI, which I really don't relate to. Even a picture, an image, we don't know if it's true, what embedded unseen elements are in there. They read an article somewhere, they have no idea who wrote it. Is it true? Is it not true? People are writing academic papers with AI referencing peoples that don't exist and researches that never took place. So the element of the only way for someone to know who they are and what is true for them is to find that truth and that answer within. So when I view the future, and when I look at children around me and the families that I'm privileged to work with, I just hope for us to create these conditions for everyone. Because when children are nourished and their energy is nourished, and I think that's also part of our future, when we nourish also the energy and provide them with this language, so they're whole, because we're both physical and we have our mental abilities and we have also our energetic abilities. When we nurture the whole, we give them the tools, and there's so many beautiful tools, again, to keep them inward and knowing their truth. And it's so, with everything that is happening in social media and exposure, the confusion is, why do suddenly when I grew up, there were a few people who wanted to be actresses and singers and famous, but that was a minority. Why is everybody wanting that now? So we can say, okay, it's because it's on social media and these people are getting a lot of attention, and getting likes is key to success, right? But it's also, I think, a reflection of everybody wanting to shine. But you want to shine, and we want to guide them to shine their own truth, not somebody else's truth. So it's I think we're living in an extremely challenging times in terms of providing this guidance, because we're still dancing between old and new paradigms. Being a victim is an old paradigm, and everything that it nourishes and all the benefits that being a victim offers, negative thought patterns, which it's an old paradigm, but it's still controlling our minds, and we still make those mistakes because that's our limiting belief, as Melanie just said, and we need to. So it's about our work, finding our essence, and every child, again, as I said earlier, sorry I'm repeating myself, but every child that we help stand tall with who they are, not with what society wants them to be, or their parents, or their family, nobody, with who they are, ripples out. And I think we're all here, and many others are here to facilitate this change for kids.
So powerful. And Shika, collaborating with you to bring like-minded women, mothers together, this is a passion, not only just women's work, spirit work, and this beautiful, I love, like, Efrat, how you talk about weaving things, and I know Flea and I talk about that, in some of our inner circles, and bringing these threads through, because it is complex in this tapestry, and yet there is so much simplicity in the paradox of it all, of reminding ourselves, our children, of that essence. And I know Shika with 2 young children as well. What is it about, I suppose, parenthood, education? You know, you shared a beautiful story earlier about like the parent-teacher interview and the teachers being focused on the handwriting, and your son just specifically telling you, you don't know my creativity. And this potential of like our children, when given the opportunity to converse with them, and him being so confident to tell his own mother, actually, I am creative, this is how I'm doing it. And it's like our children are almost slapping us in the faces sometimes, like, you better listen, you take that, like my daughter does it to me all the time, take that phone away, you know, and they're just slapping us with love to go, come on, be present, know me, know what I'm good at. And like, what is it about this topic, parenthood, motherhood, that you're passionate about raising a young family, Shika?
There were many things that were coming to me, so I'll try to collect it together and put it forward. And yes, the dented handwriting is a creative handwriting. I knew it when I heard it, but when I told him that, okay, this is a feedback of handwriting, and can you be creative? So I was trying to be very intelligent at that time, trying to say, okay, let me talk in his language because he understands the creative language. And he just told me, I am being creative. This handwriting is creative. You don't. His exact words were, you don't understand what is the definition of my creativity. That's exact sentences he came, and he just left. So, which was just like, I am writing in a creative way, you can call it dented handwriting or upside down or whatever. So then I said, can you just start writing like till the time in school, like no, like society standard? Because he's an emotionally intelligent guy. He's like, okay, like that I can write. You're giving the right instructions. Oh, you want me to write P exactly in the line? I'll do that. But sometimes we get these answers, but there are 2 3 things that were coming to me, and I'll try to put them all together. Being a baby and child photographer myself for 25 years, at a very young age I picked up a camera and I started noticing children, and pictures were just, I realized, an excuse to know them. I think I was always very interested. um, First of all, about the AI world, there's so much happening in the world of AI that I realized that we've manifested this, the wonderland, the magical land, through all the stories we've been telling for generations about this wonderland where you click something and something happens, and then you do something and the magical voice comes, and then, and then we finally, as evolution point of view, have reached what we've been manifesting for years in storybooks. And it has look at it, reaching the Disneyland finally, taking a very long boat and everything, and one fine day we will reach it. So as humans, we've been trying to manifest this world of AI. What AI, like, I've been laughing at what Marie shared. We're just feeding in, and this interview looks like a BBC interviewing about us. A whole 11-minute interview came up with just voices and a podcast of somebody, and so real, and I couldn't believe, as if it looked as if I had spoken and given them the stuff that they were talking about. But to look at it as a magical land, to look at it as manifestation of human beings wanting it for so long. We will bring the woolly mammoth back as well. We're manifesting it. We have the thing. We've got it. We are in this creative manifest. So on one side, honoring it. I mean, we've been knowing it's coming, and we've reached it. We've reached there. But the point I've reached here, I don't know whether, because I'm simultaneously doing many things. I'm reading Effort's book, I'm doing some Indian stuff, and I don't know where this idea came of the choice. I don't know whether it was also in your book about choice, and many things came to me, and I suddenly had this whole vision that I've always had a choice. Of course, originates from choosing the parents also. And then I went back to start dismantling the fact that do we have a choice always? And then I realized I do, and the life force was always letting me choose the best. So trusting that in my own children is the only thing I can do. And when I started to dismantle, I went all the way when I was a kid. And when my mother was taken away, and she was I always had a choice. She was taken away, and at that time I made a choice. I won't cry about it. I'll adjust, I'll understand. I made a choice, whether somebody believes it or not, right? So I stayed with it. I made a choice. I was flunking in my class from grade 1 to grade 10 every year in education. I made a choice not to make that my reality, and then I scored the top in my 12th grade. I made a choice to get through it, every year to get through it. I always had a choice to end it in whatever way, in physical way, when you're getting bullied, when you're going through things. If you're coming out of it, you always have that life force making a choice to get you out of that situation, and you're always making a choice. It's not that things are just happening to you, and so it depends on how we see it. So I've reached a point now with AI to celebrate it and say, fine, I mean, look at the potential of humans. For years, and in our culture, there's a word called sankalp. If anybody understands, it's becoming a very famous word all over the world now, like mantra and everything from our country. But sankalp means the pledge that you take, and you keep repeating it like a mantra, and it becomes a reality. It's a magical thing. It's a magical world. We've been trying to make this AI world a real for quite some time. So, but to know that even in that, life has given us a choice to just press the button and out from there, is the only thing we can tell our children. Press the button, you're out from this land. Love it for as long as you can, play with it for as long as you can, but with the knowing and the reminder that there is a button there, exit button. You know how the escape rooms are made, and if you can't escape it, they ask for help and say, press the button, escape, and then the help comes, or they give you the clues, and then you can exit the escape room depending on the difficulty level. So I have this understanding of reaching to a point of just knowing that I have the choice. So I'm trying to tell my children, go play as much as you want to. I've not given them the screen yet, but in my head I've told them, because they will go and play with AI someday. And when they do, I just want them to give them this option, a little band in their hand, that there is a button to exit and there's a time limit. So know that you can exit from there, and don't be scared, because your essence and your reality and your life will always give you a choice to do the right thing. And just search for that voice of choice and then exit, and then go to the next reality and then play there, because in the end the life is just playing. We're just playing with different things, and I'm just praying that all of us can just smile on the last day. It's like we played very well, and we can just leave. you know that's the only thing we should do, and not sit down and say, what was that? I just wasted it. I've just realized I just wasted this whole thing. I didn't even play about it. So that's where I am, if it makes any sense. But this is what comes to me between the conversation of AI and reality and children, and where I am as a parent. So
Shika, you just painted such a beautiful picture there, and it all started with that. Your son's definition is, you don't understand my definition of creative. And when we think about it, like, that is our expression. Like, each one of us, every single word in the dictionary, a meaning. Anytime we translate it into a different language, it has a different meaning. It has a different value. The words we say and the way we say it has a different meaning and a different value. Like, we can literally talk gibberish and you can still understand if a person's angry at you. It's like, blah, 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 like, it just happens. And, we don't actually have to use the words or the terms or the terminology out there to really express it. And I think that's where so many of us get confused. It's like, in the labels. Let's remove the labels and shift it, because this is my expression of my creative. This is my creative. And like you said, Chika, like, we are manifesting this. AI has actually been around for generations. It's artificial intelligence.
yes,
The minute we created a pen to do the writing for us, to do the expression for us, that is an artificial intelligence.
yeah,
We've just calculated it more. It's just gotten bigger.
yeah. I just want
Photos have been doctored since imagery. It started as a painting, didn't it? That was an interpretation of the person in front of you. You think of portraiture in the day before photography.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like, some of those pictures look nothing like what we know the person to be, but yet it was the expression of the moment, like you teach, Shika, in your course. When we can appreciate that every single person has a different version of that, a kaleidoscope of interpretation, that's my version of creative. That's my version of equal, because we can accept that every single one of us is a reflection of what we want to see at that time. Do we want to be challenged? Some part of us does. Some part of us wants to feel the hardness. but we see in television, you talked about the woolly mammoth. Well, we had Ice Age how many years ago now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This idea that
I might
cycles will
just
change and switch and come back.
I might just add a question to this, because I know we are now talking about this evolution of what's happening in society, and so for parents that are navigating this world of authentic experiences, focusing on family, wanting to nourish and balance versus having the tech there in a world that's unknown, a world that we are creating, and I'm going to open this up to the floor, what's our perspective on, like, parents that are utilizing this tool for their children, not only to learn, but also, I know in my journey, when I've gone through some really hard times, I have given my daughter the phone, the iPad, because it has been easy, it has been convenient, and yes, there are still learning tools there, and she absorbs it so quickly and can do amazing things there. But then it's like that balance of, for parents that are super busy and working or working on themselves and trying to have those boundaries and navigating, changing the narrative for themselves, how do we balance and be okay with giving our children tech time versus also the dangers around, using it as a numbing tool in a way for parents and for children.
I can say one word: intentionality.
I think
Absolutely.
Melanie
Absolutely.
can talk about it because she's worked actively and she had a lot of conversations around this, Melanie. And of course, you have to speak.
Amazing.
Melanie has
Well,
in this space.
well, as you say, there is a balance and to find when using tech. I think um, we have an opportunity here to stimulate our children's imagination when we use AI in that way of like in visualizing a future that they want to create, of being able to get that imagination flowing and see themselves within that imagination, then we have within that picture that they've created, then we have an opportunity to manifest a completely new world for them in that aspect, because they're not limited to images of the past, images of things that have already existed, and therefore trying to create on something that's already been, that creating and manifesting a new world requires imagination, requires the feeling of knowing what it, or of wanting to live in a different existence, and so AI can be used in that way. I saw an Instagram reel which I thought was really inspiring, of a teacher in I'm not sure which country it was, somewhere like Iran or something like that, where basically they're being bombed left, right, and center. But the teacher was trying to inspire her children about what they want their life to be. And she took a picture of them as they are now. And then on the other side was AI generated picture of them in the future, of what it is that they had said that they wanted to be. So whether it was them as a doctor or them as a pilot or them as a footballer or something, but it was future imagining for them. It gave them something tangible for them to look at, to aspire to. And so in those ways, technology is amazing at creating and inspiring our children to believe in what it is possible for their lives, especially when there's destruction around them. So I think there's that tangible, that's something that is really, really great to have and to do. We have to, for us to be able to turn left, we have to know what right is. For us to be able to go up, we have to know what down is. So there is yin and yang in everything. There is positive and negative in everything. And for us to experience the joys and the wonder and the awesomeness of greatness, of goodness and stuff, we do have to have an awareness of what is not so great, of what the darkness is, of what that ickiness feeling is. And that's what brings us to our powerful selves. That's what allows us to step up into that magnificent, to be and to shine in our greatness. So balancing the tech, using it in a way that inspires and motivates and, develops creativity and brings out that magnificent is brilliant. And there are times when, as human beings, that we do need to just say, okay, take a moment. We need to forgive ourselves for that and not beat ourselves up, because then that just adds extra guilt, extra stress that our children pick up on, and so forth. So as Felicia said, be intentional. And when you're intentional with your actions, then you create the outcomes that you're looking for. You move towards those outcomes. You're in more alignment of creating those outcomes. So the intention is everything.
Yeah, so powerful. And the things that our kids can create with technology, gaming, AI is so cool. I look at the games and the things that my daughter creates. I'm like, I would have never imagined that. And I'm like, look at what you've created here. And I feel also like sometimes when I see her pick up something that's technical, like it's almost second nature, like she's done it before. And it comes so quickly. So I know it's that balance and intentionality, and I'm going to open it up, and if there are other threads or other things, please, Efrat, go for it.
I think we need to, in my perspective, to distinguish between passive and active use of technology. I think that when they create games or create movies or evolve, for many of them, that's part of their soul's journey. They're doing their thing, and it's beautiful. When it becomes very passive, that's one thing that parents, I think, need to pay attention to. It's sitting in front of a screen, and it may look the same when we observe from afar, but when we get close or converse with our children, we can get clear what's happening there, and that's very important. Another important piece in observing technology in terms of raising our children to the future is also related to violence. There's so much violence in games, and they develop, and even kids develop games that are violent. And I don't think this is what we want to nurture. And it's not just that we don't want to nurture it. In my perspective, my experience, all souls are very pure and kind and loving. And when exposed to violence, not just when in war zones, or in family situations, sadly, or by being bullied in school, been exposed to violence as if playing a game and even winning it, they lose, in the shamanic terms, they lose soul parts, they lose parts of themselves, those creative, innocent, loving, kind pieces. So it's also about being mindful that even if they're active, what are they active around? So intentionality invites us to it's more than about device time and how long they can play their device. It's a lot about what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, and also a lot of communicating those pieces with them. And I'll add just one more thing about it, that devices, technology, it's part of our world. We're connecting globally using this technology. But those beings and souls that are coming to Earth are also here to experience humanity, physical, Earth, nature, connectedness between beings, relationships. So technology and everything that is coming, and we're manifesting partially because it's also ideas coming from other planets, is beautiful, as long as we don't forget other pieces, not only, but other pieces of our soul journey, of the reasons why we are here. Because if we didn't play earth, we didn't play mud, we didn't play relationships, because we're in technology, and technology is inspiring, but technology also, for many of us, pulls us out of our body, out of the play, the game we came here to experience. So balance is a key word, but it's soul specific, very, very, very soul specific. I would go back from any do's and don'ts and how to's, but invite parents to be very, very, very intentional, aware, and educated, and know what their perspective is, because parents don't know. We don't know what our perspective is about AI, about technology. It's questions that we are asking. If we don't ask those questions, any guidance, any balance is not real. So
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with everything that Efrat has just said there. Reminds me of, when we were growing up, or as our parents would guide us and shape us on safety and what's safe and what's not safe and so on. And I think those principles apply in everything. You want to teach your children about awareness of being aware of what they're consuming, being aware of the things that may lead them down certain roads. So, this all brings the conversations and that connectedness that parent and child will have as you're talking about them, about these things that they're experiencing, these things that they're using. You're guiding them on what could be good or what could be bad or what could be, using those particular terms, what could be harmful. That desensitizing is what you're saying, when they're constantly coming up on violence in games, and then they become so used to it that we become desensitized to it. How many of us as adults are desensitized to so much of the violence that we see, that's on our news, that's around, and that's even on social media? We scroll past it without even flinching. We have become desensitized to these things. And that happens as we go through life and society. And it's a defense mechanism that we do, to protect ourselves, to protect our energy. We can't take on those big emotions of everything that we see. If we did, what would we be like in that sense? So it is a defense mechanism. And yes, we do want to protect our children from developing those defense mechanisms so early on in life. We want them to embrace their childhood, to embrace all of that, and to keep that knowledge that they have, that remembrance that they have of their soul divine alignment, because we have it as children and we lose it as we get older. So we want to be them to try and hold on to that for as long as humanly possible in this human experience. And if they're able to take that into adulthood, then my gosh, that is amazing, because they will know that who their true divine self is, and not have to have such a long journey of remembering themselves. So we do, as parents, need to have that awareness and apply it to, and help our children to have that awareness as well.
I wanted to come back to the intentionality, because with this, and we've all kind of touched on it a little bit there, we're all conscious parents right now. We're sitting here with this awareness, directing our kids in that way. And most of the time, I would say we would have intentionality. The biggest problem with like the fears around AI and where the world is going and all of this is that entertainment has become that murderous criminal activity. Like this is what children, what adults, this is what the general population of people out there are viewing as entertainment. They don't see it as, oh, this could actually happen. A lot of people don't even associate, what they see in a movie as a war as to what's actually happening in real life. That they're so disassociated from what they're watching. And that's the problem there, is if the minority of people are focused on that as entertainment, it really isn't going to do that much good if there's a few of us sitting here saying, oh, yeah, conscious parenting. What is that to those people? They've got no idea that what they're watching is toxic and, that they're calling it into their life. I didn't as a young mum. I had no idea. I loved Disney shows, and lucky for me as an English buff and like loving the creative arts and everything, I could always see the story and the morals and the myths and everything behind the tale. So when I would watch that with my kids, I'd be talking about that. I wasn't a conscious parent. I didn't understand that's what I was doing. I just thought that's what stories were. Stories always had a value in them. But as I've gotten older and as my kids' entertainment changed, I was like, this is not entertainment. I do sit there and I get physically ill with the emotions that run through my body at watching the news. It's like, how can people watch this and just, oh, I'm just informing myself but doing nothing? Like, what's the point and the purpose of watching the news if you're not going to do something? You want to be informed. Informed why? So you can gossip about it. That's the intentionality. And this is where that AI and everything that we're doing, it's like we're creating it. It can be fabulous. We can intentionally teach our kids how good it can be, but we have to really be aware of there's so many influences out there that are going to be showing them, oh, but it's so much fun to do it this way and to not worry about it that way. They do need to watch more of us, and yeah, I'll hand it over now. But the intentional, we've got to start with, like, what are you watching and why? And if you're watching death and destruction for entertainment, why? What part of you is relating to that?
Yeah, I just have some thoughts that's come to me, and if it's of any contribution to this conversation. Um, yeah, when I stood up on stage, when I ended the mother's event, and I stood on stage and I said one sentence, it came to me at that time, was that I'm in search of the present mother, the mother who's present. The importance of your voice attached to your child's soul is very important. And I think that's a one role that a mother can play, like her voice when she's guiding can reach. The numbing has disconnected the voice of the guide that we were meant to be, and in many ways. And because I've had an absent mother, I absolutely understand the heart of a child, what is an absent mother brings. You just can't hear and understand many things. And I'd experienced a disconnect with my child after the event, because I was just all out there talking to the world. And when he said, "You're the world's worst mother, from the world's best mother," overnight I'd become the world's worst mother. Rather than taking it personally, I only understood that the connection was lost. Okay, and in that connection, the only thing, the best solution I could bring was, like, before I start speaking to him, how do I teach him again how to hear my voice before I can start giving him very big concepts. Oh, this is how life is, what is mother. How does my voice reach his soul again and say, my ma is saying something, I just need to pay attention. And then I started reading to him at the age of 10. He can read books. And he challenged me, will you read me 12 books? 12 very thick books. I said, no. Okay. So I started with 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I was getting criticized at that time. They're like, he can read. He's just manipulating you. I'm like, if nothing else, the tone of my voice, he'll get used to again. And that would be a big win in itself. And just by reading for 25 minutes, something random, something that doesn't make anything sense to my world or my journey at this point in time, together, made a huge difference just in a year's time. And today, we're connected again. No purpose talk, no talk of what's intentionality, what it is, what is by, just reading, just coming, connecting back. And what's happened to that is, now when I talk to him and I tell him, zip your energy, now when I talk to him and I tell him that, without an extra line, or when I tell him, my younger one understands it. Violence, ma, I cannot watch it because it's above 8. He's 5 years old. It's written 8 plus. I cannot see it. And he's trying to show it to me, if my older one is trying to show something. Because the voice has reached. So as a parent, I think we have to first start believing that we and our voice can matter and get them back. Because as a tool, as I mentioned earlier, if we can bring that U-turn, go as as far as you want to, we're there, we'll get you back, we'll try to get you back. But if that U-turn that happens when it's gone really extreme comes from your inner voice, and that's the gift you can give to your child, that we've gone too extreme and time to take a U-turn, because my ma taught me this, or learned this, or they don't even know who taught them this, but they just know that I better take a U-turn now. It's too far. That exit button, thing. I think if that's the focus we can come back to as mothers, many things will come and go in generations, but we will prepare the children to know the life force, it exists, and the right and wrong understanding exists without speaking a lot to them, and at the same time letting them be very true to the world and era they are part of. If that makes any sense. But I just feel the work is ours to bring the voice back to their heart, so that whatever whatever we've learned, and we can bring it to them without too much thought. I think today I've reached again, and they might get lost again, and maybe I'll make an intention again. But if I say stop, they stop. Versus 2 years back when I was saying stop, and it was why? Why are you stopping us? You don't have the right to stop us. What are you doing? You're not available. You're not present. Why? Right? So I just feel that trusting in the fact that I still have the ability to guide them is the first step. And that guidance takes your own creative. My mind was reading. For somebody else, it could be something else. Your own creative process coming up and saying, how do I connect back? And the connection will fix everything else with the children. It's just the loss of connection in the noise that's taking them here and there. That connection, the vibration, the energy, everything will just match the minute they know they're connected. So that's what comes to me with because we can keep discussing many times, and I go and I get lost in discussions. A lot of fear comes in. What will happen to children? This is not right, and then you beat yourself up, and you're like, oh my god, it's so confusing. But my solution was this. So the only reason I'm sharing is found my connecting voice to my children, because right now, like, they both are my focus. And the minute I got connected, stop is the only thing that works, right? And then in the night before, if they're trying to see something, I'm just like, just stop. It's just going to ruin your night and your dreams, and they just stop. And it sounds like, oh my god, it's a gift in today's time when everybody's going crazy. But I didn't work on them. I worked on myself and finding my creative way of connection. So if that helps any mother who's trying to really go here and there with how do I fix this AI madness that's going on, find the connection, and they will come back to where they're meant to be.
I'll pick up on what Shika, what you just said. It's also never too late. And a lot of parents often feel, oh, my child is 10 years old and they're not listening to me, so they're never going to listen to me. Oh, my child is 25 and we can't have a conversation, so we're never going to have a conversation or connection. And in my work, walking with spiritual aware families, also with adult children, it's never too late. And it's the personal work that we take responsibility. We own our stuff and we do what we need to do. And you found it in reading as connection. And as you said, each family will find it in another route. Soul agreements are always at play. And the connection is always always wanted, unless something really 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 extreme happened. And relating, Flea, to what you said, I think I witness it sadly a lot, and I'm always hoping for it to change, and I'm grateful for every family, just one family, when I see that change happen. When we weave spirituality in our parenting, it's like there is a barrier, there's a gap. I can see parents practicing spiritual stuff, eating really healthy, and their babies are born and their babies are being raised the same, but then the kids want this and that, and suddenly there's so much noise, and the children eat junk and do things that the parents don't do themselves. But it's like, no, this is how kids grow, or this is, but they give a lot of excuses, but the excuses are to cover their fear of facing that shared journey, that shared process. And I've seen miracle happens when just a parent realizes that they're in power. They're always in power when they own that power and take it back and show up vulnerable, and show up saying, I don't know, and show up willing to learn and change. As I shared before, just a soul moment, just stepping on, because our communication, it's a beautiful example of reading. When we read, we sit close. When we read, we communicate. I'm paying attention. I'm showing up. It's a communication that happens not just in the vocal voice or the physical voice, but in the energetic voice as well. And it's I know that a lot of parents are not seeing or feeling the energy, but we need to be aware that it exists and it's always there. They know often before we know about ourselves. So just that bit of an adding.
I
And I
love
just want to say I've read 25 books and he's still not stopped because now he's got used to it. And I'm like, what about you reading? You said you read 12 and I read 12 and 25 have gone. But I'm willing to do another 30 with him because now I'm looking forward to, because I've learned so much from the books of children that I'm like, wow, all this exists and this wonderland in the books. Wow, I forgot totally that how to be in a wonderland in books and laugh and have humor and everything. So rather than having he's connected me back to the world of wonders, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Oh,
So he's taught me.
That was my sign language. It connects you back to your imagination, the
Yeah,
visual as well. But it's
yeah,
your imagination, it's your visual. It's not a perception differently. When the minute you read a book, because there isn't that visual, children's stories are a little bit different because they're illustrated, but if you can read them without the illustrations and actually
without anything.
activate that
Yeah.
like that visual perception, they're open. And then having that discussion about how do you see them compared to how I see them based on their characteristics, the expression, that there is their first form of identifying how difference is actually perceived and accepted.
mm,
It's like reading is the perfect tool, and it's something that has been sideswiped for quick entertainment and podcasts because it's easily done. We don't have to activate that mind. We don't have to activate that part of the brain that says, actually, I have to think for myself. What could it look like? How could it be? Like, what would I want it to be if I was in that situation?
mm.
That development of the brain of the soul is real. It's not tampered with.
Yeah, I
And also
love that.
the questions that come in from them are you tap into what's happening within them as well, because when you're reading to them there have been odd questions suddenly being asked to you and I'm like, whoa, how did that question come? Was it even in your existence, like really sometimes a question come in. Melanie knows the writer David Walliams is really like not one of the, he's very famous but in London, but like he just wanted to read David Walliams, but even from there the questions that were coming of Nazis and other things and history and other like questions and then researching and I was just like, wow, like you could even have the ability to ask these questions and think that far. So it teaches you even one more step about your children and how much they can think by
Definitely.
by just reading and another, like I just want to add to this reading journey because it worked for me and I'm sharing it. When 25 books of David Walliams was done, because he's written 27, two more are supposed to be launched in India, we're waiting, and I had to shift him to the next writer. There was so much resistance because such a world was created of David Volumes between us. The jokes were being shared day and night, things, there's Raj in that, who's an Indian guy, and then, we're just sharing all the jokes. And now the world ended for him. And she's like, can't we just go to London and get two more books? I was like, switch the writer. And it's so hard for him now to switch the writer and then go. So now you can teach your child that situations change, things change, the world changes, the imagination changes. And now I've taken him to a totally different writer.
Yeah.
And the reading is so slow that we only read 2 pages a day. And the same book
Mm.
is very slow, but he's reached half of it and he's like, I've started to like it now. So
It's a
now
powerful tool indeed.
to
And
understand other views, other
that's
people.
it.
Don't get obsessed with one kind and get comfortable and now get
And
into
these
something.
core skills, I know Melanie wants to jump in, and I do have a final question, but these core skills of reading, writing, creativity, being in your body, dancing, planting, working with your hands, all of these core creative human skills are at the heart of every part of our human experience. And they will never go away because the curiosity and the power of story. Whether before we were able to write as humans, we were always telling stories. And this is the power that continues to be everlasting. And Melanie, is that, I feel like you're going to weave a bit more.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The power of stories, of reading. I mean, that's a generational wisdom being passed down there all the time, long before words were written down in alphabetical form and stuff. Stories from generations, from our ancestors, was what was spread the wisdom that that it created the imagination that allowed everything to come into blossom. So reading, tapping into that imagination, exploring all the different authors, because everybody's imagination will create a different type of paradigm, a different thought. So I think it's absolutely good not to get stuck on one author and to explore as many as possible. Yeah, but I recognize it's a process as well in moving into all of those different imaginative worlds. And from that, they create their own imagination, their own imaginative world. And this is where the greatest inventions come from. This is where all of these AI technologies and all of the things that we're experiencing in the world today has come from these stories that have been passed down through generations and created into something new. So, we need to hold on to those stories. We need to listen to the stories of our mothers, of our grandmothers, of our great grandmothers, and pass them and weave them into new traditions and new ways for our children to pick up on that learning and to understand, the magnificence of the world through stories. It's brilliant.
Oh, I love that. It is so brilliant. And this leads me next to my final question for us, because we're talking so passionately about, these beautiful tools that we get to use as humans. So my question is, where do we see the future of education, of all of us here work with families, with parents, with children, whether you're in the mainstream schooling systems or you're in your own creative systems in your programs, because everything is learning. Like, where do you see or feel the next 5 to 10 years shifting with education, these new holistic systems that you're actually implementing and embodying and working with in the future? I know the research that I came across with when I was in middle leadership was saying, because of COVID, the next 5 to 10 years, these educational institutions are going to change. More of us went into online learning. More of us started moving away into homeschooling. More of us started doing deeper inner work and questioning what is right for me, my family, the growth. And there are many pockets of what we're doing now that are percolating out throughout the earth, as well as working with the old systems that are still present. But the research that I came across was like, schools may turn into hubs for communities. Schools may turn into, not always here in Australia, it's 5 days a week. It could shift and look differently. So I'd love to know, like, what you feel or envisage seeing, I suppose, on the grander scheme of things, where you see education shifting into. I'll go to Flea, and we'll just speak for a couple minutes each. So Flea.
Yeah, that's easy for me. Awæcnian Academy. We are creating project-based learning that is inspiring youth to regenerate, be sustainable, be part of the project of what it is for them, like creating wonderlands around the world. That's how I envision the academy, is this building of sheer innovation, where we take the skeleton of something old and regenerate it into something purposeful, so that it shows that no matter where you come from, no matter what resources you have, there's always another way. There's always a way to rebuild, restructure, and to grow with what we actually have. And for me, that's a project-based learning where we can come together and we can start with let's build courses to build the actual building. Let's show people how we can construct from something that's no longer usable or no longer wanted. And there's so many abandoned buildings out there that all we need is for people to say, actually, I've got one. Let's make this something. Let's actually convert it into a school for the community. So then we can show the world that through this, we then have projects where no matter what you're doing, whatever you're creating in this academy gets to then be future production. As a teacher, as a student, you get to be part of the academy, part of developing and growing. So that's me. Easy.
Beautiful. And it's tapping into that soul work, knowing the individual, knowing their genius, so knowing their human design, epigenetics, whatever tools you want to tap into, but knowing that individual and seeing what lights them up and encouraging that. And that's where I feel like
we've just lost Marie, so if somebody wants to jump in when she comes back in, she'll finish.
I think I will, because my son is very now done with 12 hours of me sitting on the computer. He really wants me out in case he drags me out. I just want to add the last bit from my side is that I reached a point where I want to be like a grazing cow on a land who's not worried about what's going to happen. I just want to just keep grazing my own present grass. And I'm done with trying to have any kind of predictions for myself, because it takes away all my energy. It takes away beautiful time away from my children. It takes into conversations that consume me in so many ways and takes me away from being present. So I have this image every time I'm just trying to even think about the future. So to say, let me just go graze my grass, and I let me be taken by surprise, and I'm okay by the surprise. I'm perfectly fine by the surprise. At this point in time, I want to graze grass. I want to go paint the dinosaur. I want to sit here, do this summit, and that's good enough. And that's why my enough project is there. In that, I always say that it's good enough where I am. It's perfectly fine where I am. And if I can keep bringing myself to the present, there are better things to focus on right now, like my children's meals, their nutrition, their next sleep, their better waking up in the morning, few hugs. And if I can just focus on that, and then my grazing of my creativity, which I keep like love doing, and then next day get up and say, okay, I want to graze there, and then I want to graze there, and that's good enough for me. And in that process, whoever gets whatever they get, however they get, is also okay. So my goals, my missions, my purpose, everything is dissolving for me, because I'm trying to come to the present and say, right now, graze like a cow. Forget trying to be on top of the mountain. And while grazing, sometimes you reach on top of the mountain, you don't even realize, the cow doesn't even realize where she's hanging, what's the danger, where is it in the corner, and they just come back also, that happens. They're just grazing and just moving. So yeah, that's me. If you see me like maneuvering, just going here and there, if I reach the mountain, awesome. If I don't, that's great. And if there's a surprise, even better. I will have something to deal with and learn. So that's
it's
me.
beautiful. All I heard
Yeah.
was grazing, and sorry, Melanie, because I got kicked out, but that tapping into the genius zone and tapping into like picking and choosing who your teachers are and what you're drawn to magnetically. And Shika, I came into the last bit of what you were saying, but the grazing and tapping into all of the amazingness, and I'm going to use Melanie's words, magnificence of what is out in the world. So Melanie, what do you envisage?
I just love what Sheikha just said there. What I loved about it was the surrender in nature. That surrendering and giving over to the universe and trusting and knowing that what's going to come your way is for your highest good, for your children's highest good. And that in that present moment, I think is absolutely awesome. I love that I love that surrendering. My vision for the future is along all of those lines. My vision for the future is transforming that generation of teaching our children, that they are limitless, that they are powerful beings, that they have come to this world to create and be and do and everything magnificent that they were designed to do. And I feel as parents that we have that unique opportunity to shape their thoughts, to shape their self-perceptions, to shape their aspirations and awareness, to give them permission to be their magnificent self. And I believe it is a parent's job, duty, even guidance to do that. Because if we rely on our education, our governmental education systems to guide our children into their greatness, it's not going to happen. That's not their agenda. That's not what their education system was built for, or what their purpose is. And yes, as much as we are trying to redefine and reshape it, it begins with us. It begins with reshaping ourselves to then reshape our children, to then be able to take on the institution. And in actual fact, it's our children that is more than likely going to change the institution, because they're going to imagine something different for themselves, something different for their children. They're going to create the world. They're going to create the world that we want for them to have. We always want our children to go much further and do much more than we have ever accomplished. And they will do that. And we're going to give them the tools to do that by allowing them to be their true, highest, aligned, and magnificent self. And by teaching them how to do that, how to be their unique fullness of themselves. So that's the future that I see for us. I see us all going forward and creating that movement, creating that mom momentum, that movement where we are inspiring each other, each of us, to bring that to our children, to enable them to then pass that on to their next generation. So yeah, that's what I see happening. I don't see the government taking it up, but I see us as parents, as human beings, doing it, and that will filter across everything else, because, as you say, the shape of education is changing, and we're taking the power back ourselves. We're taking ownership back, and we are deciding what we want our children to learn, and that is their trueness of themselves, to stay connected to who they are and who they intrinsically were born to be.
Oh, speaking words of truth. And this is why I left mainstream education, like you said, because I'm like, I'm just getting stuck in here. I'm going to create my own things, and I don't know how that's going to look like. But then look, 2 years later, look at what we're creating. And this is the new curriculum. This conversation, we're talking about entertainment and what we're watching. It's like this vision that I want parents to absorb and eat up all of this juiciness here, to get encouraged to make the changes in their own lives. And Efrat, where do you see the future in all of this beautiful hope and this wisdom that's coming through now?
It's not a vision, it's more a dreaming a world into being, a shamanic practice. I dream of a world when there are no educational systems, and that the world is healthy enough that we don't need the benefits of educational system, because for some kids, the educational system, as bad as it is a lifesaver, and I don't want to ignore it. But I dream of a world when we don't even need that, because they're all safe and nourished and loved. And in line, Melanie, with what you just said and what's been said here before, it starts with each one of us. For now, in the now, it's each mom, each significant adult, nourishing their kids, spending time with them, being present, and remembering we all have a choice. And when we decided to go for homeschooling, I was given an amazing, challenging advice. Take every perception, every belief that you hold, and every belief that others invite you to face, and break it down. Take it apart. Ask yourself, is this what you believe? Is this what your daughters need? And I think that's what we all need to do. We need to ask questions about everything, and to know that we are worthy of asking any question that we want about our own lives. Also about others sometimes, but definitely about our own. So just take that power, own that power of your children chose you. And when we remember that our children chose us and the potential in us, everything is possible.
That's my phrase. Everything is possible, because impossible doesn't exist. And I love that you mentioned what you did, Efrat, because it was like, yes, that's exactly it. When we just are in our elements, and we can be in that beauty of loving ourselves, that just inspires learning to happen, and that's organic in the ideal world where we're dreaming this in. Yes, it's going to be there, but we've got to get there somehow, and realistically, let's create the steps that we can right now, and that is looking at ways that we can find ourselves through the production of what we're creating. And yeah, I love this whole conversation. I could talk for hours and hours and hours on ways that we can improve and inspire and just do, because everything is possible by the pure definition of impossibility. It doesn't exist. The minute you think something into anything, and this is why stories and fiction and movies are so potent, because it has been thought into existence. There is a reality to those fictional stories in the manifestation of the person that created it. And this is where that depth of understanding really needs to be widespread, world spread. Like, we all need to know this so that we can make those discerned choices and act with intentionality. Is there going to be entertainment of that sort? Yes, because people will be interested in how crimes happen, how, we investigate and we go through the motions of this expression, but are we doing it in a way that's healthy? And that's, I guess, what everybody here has been talking about and coming to in our own way. It's the health of ourselves that creates the health of those around us.
Yeah, beautifully said. So beautifully said. This has been such a delicious, powerful, inspiring panel. So thank you so much, ladies, and beautiful Melanie. If people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Okay, so you can pop over to my website, which is www.mygeniusme.com. And there you can get a copy of the book, My Genius Me, which is this one here, as well as send your email to mgm@mygeniusme.com, and I will send you handouts and things that you can begin this process of empowering yourself and your children's mindset. And again, on Facebook and Instagram, My Genius Me or Melanie Hibbert, you can hit me up on either of those platforms.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Efrat, would love for you to share your contact details again for anyone that's tuned into this beautiful panel.
So you can find everything that I write and a lot of free resources for parents on how to, difficult questions for parents, for journaling, tools you can share with your children, including coloring sheets, how to craft a healing story for your child. A lot of free resources on my website. My name, Efrat Shokef, EFRATSHOKEF.com. And my book, The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children, can be found on Amazon or any other bookstore that you can think of. Thank you so much, everyone.
So powerful, so powerful. And this piece about, I think, Efrat, the last sentence you said, that we are worthy. There is like this sense of we are enough, which leads me to chatting with linking to our beautiful sponsor, Rosie Batista, with the Enough Experience and Shika's beautiful self-portrait workshop. Been talking a bit today, and coming back into the art of noticing the authenticity of really peeling away the onion layers within self. And so, Shika, if people want to connect with you and join your workshop and the Enough Experience, would love for you to share.
Well, the Enough Experience, Rosie has taken the self-portrait to another level from there. So at this point, I am focusing on the whole experience of the Enough Experience. So Rosie Besita, like her, I can never pronounce her name, but we can put it in the chat and put that link where you can reach a self-portrait for the first 100 cards of Enough Experience has become part of that Enough Experience. So there is going to be a self-portrait workshop, and then taking that learning, that creation into the card deck with Rosie, and adding the voice and adding the soul and adding the letters to that card deck and then taking it out to the world once we reach 100. Like I reached 100 moms, we are going to reach 100 cards, and then we take the first enough citizens out to the world and say, these are the first citizens who are proactively promoting the concept of complete whole grazing, whatever the versions of people they feel it is. For me, grazing is a whole thing. Like I actually connect to the cow and the grazing a lot. So wherever you feel whole, but we've taken two tools and combined it into one and called it the enough experience. And it could lead to starting off, initiating the fact that it's important to pay attention to becoming a whole, and then using a creative tool to do that, not necessarily always taking the traditional path. And it's worked for the first 20 who've come in. So we're celebrating very soon the 25 women who've joined us. If it's going to become 100, and then Rosie wants 1 million. Uh, we'll see how we reach there. But the first 100 are going to be celebrated in an in-person event, or something will happen. We will see what comes up. But at the moment, we are heading to becoming 100. And the only criteria is Melanie is the first one to step into self-portrait, by the way. She's the first person to step into self-portrait. And if I can say this to Melanie, because she's given me a testimonial on that, the first time I met Melanie, she refused to switch on her camera in Zoom and talk to people. She would just say, and I was like, I love your voice. Can I see you? And she's like, no, you can't see me. And she would just keep her camera off. And here she is leading a global movement with her cameras on and taking summits, and I don't know what else she's doing. So Melanie is the first one who's taken all the way, and then I would love her to be also part of the Enough Experience, the second part, and I'll talk to you about it, Melanie. So thank you for just not only the coming with the enough concept and promoting it like that, but also creating these spaces again and again. I'm saying it's very important what you and Flea are doing, Marie, because to be able to give your energy and attention and listening to all kinds of views and then bringing it to the world and then adding yours to it and then creating spaces in itself is a massive job, which you do with so much grace. Look at it, 9:30 in the night, you're like smiling, whatever time it is. Look at the smiles on their face. They're still smiling and beaming. It's 7:30, whatever it is. It's been very long, 12 hours we're sitting and you're still. I can do it once and then I need 6 months break. You guys do it very often. So beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for all that you guys do, always. And more than that, the abundance you bring. I have never met anybody who has ever conducted things without any lack. You have no lack in you. You only feel accommodated with every single challenge that comes in with every human that we add to the summit. So thank you for saying yes to this and creating this space. So
God bless. Thank you, Shika. It's a beautiful words. And folks, come and join. Like, this is the community we get to be in. So come and do the workshops, come and buy the books, come and just grow and connect with each other. And Flea, if people want to connect with us at Awæcnian Academy, we have free resources on our website, free journaling prompts. If you type in free me in the journal, you'll get the journal for free. We've got beautiful courses. What else have we got for beautiful people that are tuned in and stayed here for this long?
We have more of this. We have summits galore with lots and lots of speakers from around the globes, all talking about different concepts. Like, I don't feel like any one person so far has delivered the same information. And this is multiple different people, multiple different times. Some of them repeat, and I still haven't heard the same stories. So it's really beautiful to just see how much we can grow from that. And there's a wealth of knowledge and banking information just in those replays alone, and we've turned them into little mini courses so you get some practical activities and things to do as well. We've got our lovely Awæcnian awareness, our first level of self-mastery course there, so that is open and available for anyone that really wants to dive deep into their shadow work and find the true self inside of them. I think that's about it. We've got lots. There's so much available and more developing.
Oh, yeah. So come and connect, join the tribe, connect with these amazing people. And on our website, Flea does a lot of work in the back end, but all of these beautiful faces you see in the Mum Summit will be a part of our connections on our website as well. So we're here building a directory We're here to, you know, have a space for the world to go, well, who are the best teachers? And we're going to say, Efrat, Melanie, go to these facilitators. Who are the people that are specializing in shamanism? Efrat, we know again, but Fernando in Brazil, people that are in hypnosis or breath work. You know, we're here to also be that directory of going, well, if there is shifts in these paradigms, who are the quality, heart-centered, everyday leaders, and where we know who they are. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We did run a little bit over some of the tech things. Really appreciate your time, ladies, and thank you, everybody. Send us some love hearts, send us some of your key takeaways, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
I love that. I don't know. I want to do that.